Dead meme.
Hey everyone, today I'd like to talk to you about Stationeers and should you buy / play Stationeers in 2022. So to give you an idea of when this is being released, the most recent update was the Deep Miner. So that gives you an idea. Well, there were a couple small bug fixes here and there, but that's the largest content patch that has occurred. So the game is still having things added to it. It's definitely an early access game. The price closely reflects that, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna go through the typical steps. Let's talk about the presentation. And as you can see, it's not too bad. It's pretty good. It's not photorealistic by any means, but as you can see, the backgrounds here, like on Jupiter, this looks really cool. The setting of the ice, my base, which is still partially under construction, we're kind of renovating. My friend over there who owns the server, he cares significantly more about aesthetics, but for the most part, I don't know, I don't think my base is too bad, but he's definitely got me beat. So, as we can see, is another example of animations and the effects of the sun. That looks a little weird, eh? So, it's not perfect, but I think if you like games such as Astroneer, this is a slight upgrade in quality, I think, but it's not necessarily bad what Astroneer has done. It's just a decision on art style, I would say. So let's look at some of the character models. So this is the robot. It's acquired through DLC. I have a bit of a issue when it comes to offering DLC when you're in early access. It's kind of scummy, but you know, the model still looks good. There's a human player. If I can get close enough to him, you can take a look at the model. Like, the characters are kind of comical in shape and size, so it's definitely not a if you're looking for photorealism, you're in the wrong place. It may change. It is an early access game. And as you can see, the animations aren't too bad, but I think where the animations kind of are lacking, like if we, I can show you here as a good example. I'll take like the welding tool out and some sheets of steel. Like, there are some places where it feels like there is no animation. You know, early access, it's forgivable. I imagine it will change. Like, I would be shocked if this is the way they left it, but it's early access, so if this is a deal breaker for you, keep that in mind. And just to show off a bit more of like the shader work that's been done, I've turned my shadows up in order to show you that, yeah, they've done a fair bit of work. Like, models, as you can see, this model is being affected by the sun passing through. There is a bit of an FPS drop. It's probably because my base is an absolute pigsty. But as you can see, as the sun's moving through the sky, so are the shadows and the sun glares. So yeah, they've done a decent enough job in the field of lighting, and I suspect it'll improve. It is a Unity engine game, so those I find the lighting systems in those are relatively decent. There's a lot of good built-in tools that many people take advantage of. So you can turn this up. I'm playing on the highest graphics setting, but I typically turn my shadows to medium for the sake of performance. Alright, so I think we've covered the appearance of the game, the animations, the basic presentation. What I think that I could discuss with you now is the gameplay. What is this game about? And for the most part, if you look on the wiki, you're basically just supposed to build a station, something that you would that is serviceable to your needs. So every planet, if we look outside, we're on Europa here, every planet or moon has a different challenge typically associated with it. So for example, it's negative 150-ish degrees outside. If you pump that air into your base, it will quickly freeze it. It will murder your hydroponic plant life, and you won't be able to cook food and survive. Because it is not just a building game, it has the survival aspects of hydration and hunger. So like, as you can see, I got my water bottle station here, and if you're playing a human, you are perpetually thirsty. It's just something you're going to have to learn to live with. But for the most part, I think what I think you should know, for the most part, is the inventory system and how it works. So down like the left side of the screen, in the bottom left there, there's hotkeys assigned to the various components that you're carrying of the inventories. So like I've got a tool belt here down in 6, and number 4 is my backpack. But I also have a mining belt, and I could swap those two in and out. And this mining belt will allow me to hold more ores, and the tool belt allows you to hold tools. So as you can see, you have 2 slots that are available in your hands, and you can either flip-flop the thing that's in them, or you can push E to kind of cycle through. So inventory management in this game, sometimes it's really frustrating. Like, it's just, more hotkeys would be awesome. If I'm just not aware of them, and you guys know about them, put them in the comments. Like, I don't care if I look dumb. Like, just help me have a better experience. That is the primary complaint I have with this game, is the way inventory is managed. And some of the systems, like, if I put this steel ingot in here, let's not do steel. If I throw that nickel ingot in there, and if I had another one, this is like a vending machine, and if I cycle through to the nickel ingot, it doesn't stack them. Like, you have to stack it and then drop it in. So if I throw in this guy, but I split him in half, and the system is kind of clumsy. If I split them in half like this, when I cycle through and find them again, and I ask for it to deploy it to me, it's not stacked. It's 2 separate stacks of 5, and it's taking up more space in this vending machine, which is, storage is limited. So it's not, it's not a deal breaker for me, but I think that there could be some improvements made, rather than having to build a giant sorting room to stack all of your ingots to 500, then store them in a silo somewhere. It just feels unnecessary. So, to get into unnecessary complexity, while we're here, this game is, to call it technical would be kind of strange, but it's, if you've ever played some of those tech at Minecraft, or, let's see, SevTech is a good one, or almost any of the Direwolf ones, there's a whole lot of tech that goes into them. Greg Tech is another great example of like, complicated systems when you build them all together. So this is an atmosphere room. This room handles, basically, I can bring some air from the outside in. I have a system to warm it up so that it doesn't freeze out the base. I have a waste tank, so when your waste tank is full, you swap it out, and I can recapture useful gas that's coming out of your waste tank, which is like CO2 and some oxygen. And CO2 is useful. Don't try to hold on to it. So this machine filters out all of the toxins and the nitrous oxide, which I don't want. This machine is storing up my oxygen, so I can refill my oxygen tank up here. So
air tank critical.
There's a good example. But I'm in an environment where I can put my helmet up, so I'm okay. And there, I've refilled my oxygen tank. And this is for volatiles, so there's hydrogen you could get to make fuel for the rocket, which you probably saw in the beginning. And so all of this stuff, all of this gas, is mostly coming in through this machine here and filters through this device, this rigged up system, in order to provide a breathable atmosphere. And there's an electrical system. There's a system of filters that you can take, and they degrade over time. So there's a lot of things going on, and I wouldn't say that it's complicated. It's just there are so many systems that are interacting with one another that can create a challenge for the average player. And there is a tutorial system in the game, but funny enough, it is currently bugged and you're unable to launch it. So it's it does have its issues. And again, I'll show you out here. I've got a battery room which is being just built. We're renovating this. And so I'm storing up power from wind outside, and it's clipping through the wall because I'm sloppy. But I'm storing up power by capturing wind power in these batteries, and that's supplying the base. And there's even like a system of transformers, because printing the big heavy cables is very expensive. It costs gold, which is not as easily to acquire as copper. So you'll be tempted to run your whole base in this, but it's expensive, and until you get further in the game and get some auto mining set up, good luck affording it. So you're going to actually end up using a system of transformers. And if I pull this off, I can let you see. So this device makes sure that I've got power coming in. This is the big cable's my power service. This transformer, I've set it to only allow 4,000 watts to travel through this wire, so it's safe. And this wire is running an arc furnace and some of the storage modules. This is a experiment with storage. We made like an analog storage. Yeah, see, my friend is asking for things as we speak in the next room. So it was an interesting experiment. I don't think it's as good as the vending machine, but it was fun to build. So where the scheme sits right now, it kind of lives and dies on whether or not you really like building, if you really like solving problems. If you're kind of into Space Engineers, I suspect you'll like this game. The complexity levels of things that can go wrong, I feel, are a bit higher. But let's jump into an example of, like, such as logic circuits. This machine, or this logic circuit, is controlling the temperature of this hydroponics bay, because basically if the temperature gets too high, the things I'm growing are going to die. So I've set up a logic reader. This device reads the temperature of the room through a sensor. I think I've put it over there. And then this compare unit asks a bunch of questions, like, is a temperature less than what's stored in memory? This isn't what this video is about. I have done a video that explains how to do this and does an introduction to logic, so I don't want to go too deep into it. But this is a logic system that I used, or that I'm using to control the temperature of this room. Now, to take things to another level, I was unaware this was in the game when I first purchased it, but if you look here, this is some Lua code, and there's a whole bunch of stuff built into the game. So this is a code that was written by someone else. I'm not taking credit for this by any means. The publisher is the sole owner and right holder of this, and I know that sounds dumb to say, but unfortunately, some of the people that I get some code from in the workshop are really nutter about that sort of thing. It's like, yeah, you made a code for a video game, buddy, settle down, it's yours. So this was provided to me by another individual, got it on the workshop, all the rights are theirs. This allows us to control the rockets that you see outside, right? So you can make a complicated control system like this to control the rockets and even the temperature. But if you are remotely skilled in Lua and you understand the commands, you could write your own code and create your own systems in order to basically make life easier for you. Like, you don't necessarily need to set up a logic circuit, and I feel the coding is more accurate. It's more and more controllable. Like, the level of control is significantly greater. Right, so if you're a coder or a tinkerer, you might really enjoy this game for some of what I'm about to show you. There are a bunch of programs written on these IC chips. That's a video to show and explain it. That's a video for another time. So typically, if you want to make an alloy, which is a very important part of this game, from the metals you mine, and I'll show a bit of that off in the future, you're going to have to play with some of these dials in order to control the pressure. The fuel rate is if we push F1, which is to help. When we throw ingots in there, if we look at this, there are various pressures that are required internal to the furnace in various temperatures, and some of these windows are very small and tough to hit, and it's rather obnoxious to attempt to deal with them. So we've created this system, or my friend Joey created this system, where I can just select the ingot we want, because I used to do it manually, and I did a video on that if you want to see my old school manual furnace. It's not bad, it's just not as cool as this. And I push the button to tell it that's what I want, and I start filling it in. And here we go. And so the code is manning these valves for me, making sure the temperature and pressure are appropriate. There's also some pipes that are feeding this, the fuel and the oxygen and the CO2 and the various other gases we have to control the temperature. So things can explode in this game. Don't worry. I'm not too sure why, but it always gets up really high, and then it settles down. So don't worry. We're not about to die. And so there we go. We've created steel ingots very easily. And now if we just want to turn it off, it's done. And this system back here will vent all of that hot air and those gases back into the environment. There we go. And there's a cool little effect. So, yeah, it's neat. This system interacts deeply with your atmosphere system. So understanding how both of them function, it's one of those games. If you really want to tinker, you could make this even better. Like my friend Joey's got a version of this that makes this look like garbage. So just to keep that in mind, if you're a tinkerer and you want to build things, or if it's you're one of those people like, can I make this work? Can I do that? You probably can. Let's move on. Okay, so just to show you this room, you could take things to a ridiculous place. Which this is all awesome. So this computer is sorting all of the ores. So let's start from the beginning. This machine here is digging up like a dirty version of ore, and it's not usable by us. So these chutes transported into these centrifuges, which turn them into normal ores. And all of these normal ores are siphoned through like his sorting system here. And they're getting cooked up. If I can get back there, I'd like to show it to you. Yeah, they're getting cooked up and they're getting stacked and then placed in the silo. So basically it's like a highly advanced sorting system that is not only sorting the ore, smelting it, it's stacking it in groups of 500. So it's incredibly easy to use. And so the logical conclusion, where does this go? So this is his basement where that work's done. But again, if you want to be a turbo nerd, which we do enjoy doing here, I can hit one of these buttons. It's going to drop a full stack of that ore, and that's how many of them he has, right? So there we go. And it's going to eventually give me some iron after it pulls it out of the system and gets it here. And there you go. As you can see, the number reduced, 500 iron. This is phenomenal. We are getting ready to make this do that with alloys. So it's one of those games. If you are really into this tinkering stuff, you're going to love this game. All right, now it's time to talk about the gripes and the problems that I currently have with this game. So let's give you an idea of what my experience is. I'm approaching 300-ish hours. I am very much enjoying this game. I am playing it primarily multiplayer. I have played some single player, but not so much. The multiplayer server, I find we are rebooting it 2 to 3 times a day because of some sort of bug or some sort of issue. So multiplayer's got its problems. My single player experience so far, the game it's stable, it runs fine, and it's not the resource intensity is not bogging down my system until I get to some absurd places with these builds. But one point of contention is that, say, even something as simple as logging out in this game, if you don't log out in like a sleeper or a cryotube or something that's built for you to log off in, your character's going to die, and depending on your difficulty, that will make it like, either it's a hardcore world and you can't respawn, or you just pop in but you're naked, or you'll have an like, there's a whole bunch of conditions, right? And I think that at that point, some of the complexity is unnecessary. Like when you log out of the game, it would just be great if you popped out of existence. But I understand the design choice. Like I'm not going to fault them too much. For the most part, some systems I feel are overly complicated without much of an explanation, such as the furnace. You've seen a very scaled down and simplified version of the furnace. It can be very difficult to use until you get a great deal of practice with it, or you do what we've done and you build a little cheater room. So for the most part, I consider the game stable. And the bugs and whatnot, I believe the majority of the bugs I'm experiencing are on the multiplayer end, because when I play single player, it's fine. I don't have as many struggles. So, one other thing that I think should be discussed is the price point. So, I live in Canada. The price of this game is $33 and some change. I understand there's an exchange rate and all that sort of thing, but I don't think that this is a $33 game. I think $24.95 or 99 or whatever would be the appropriate price point, but that's probably more because my country doesn't elect people who know how to run an economy, which is why our things are more expensive here. But that's a discussion for another time. The idea that you're going to release DLC while you're in early access feels scummy to me. So I kind of get, like, yeah, you're a startup and you're having some issues with capital, you need to pay the bills, but like you understand that, you're you're an early access game, right? You haven't even completed your release and you're asking for more money for DLC. So I think it's kind of gross. The monetization of games the trend, because I'm in my 40s, and I can tell you a time when you bought a game, it worked from day one. You got it out of the box, it worked. No day one patch. There was no extra money. There wasn't always someone trying to bilk cash out of you constantly. And like, I blame gamers for this culture more than the company. But that again is a topic for another time. I just don't feel it's appropriate to ask for money for a DLC when your game isn't even released. This game is likely in an alpha state because there are things such as away missions, combat, and whatnot that are yet to be added to any degree at all. So it's not like some of the away missions are there, none of them are there. And it's a planned feature. So that's why I would consider this game in an alpha state. So let's take a look at the back here. Like, you can fly these rockets manually, and you can use a computer to launch them and control them, which is what I like to do. But there's away missions for these rockets that are planned where you can go to like a space station overrun with like alien monsters. And there's also repair missions and so on. And all of that sounds great. I'm super stoked and excited that it's coming. So don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining by any means that it's a bad game. I just think it's scummy. And it might be because of my background. So let's kind of finish off. What do I think? Should you play by this game in 2022? It is complicated. So if you are... my power is blinking on enough because I haven't supplied enough. If you are not very inclined to learn new systems, because all of this, not complicated at one level, but all these systems interact with each other. Like, if you don't have power, you can't run any of your machines, and without your machines, you can't run your atmosphere, and without your atmosphere, you'll die. You can't fill your water bottle, you can't cook, you can't grow food. So it just kind of snowballs, right? So if you were one of those players who loved GregTech, like the Minecraft mod, or SebTech, or Tekkit, I do recommend it. It's a really cool game, and I suspect that it's only going to get better. And what visuals are in the game, I think they're phenomenal. Like, look at, I'm at max graphics level with medium shadows on, and that is unbelievable. Like, that's a view that no human being will probably ever see for the next like 500-600 years. So so if you like games that not necessarily at the highest level of graphic fidelity, and you enjoy creating a base and trying to solve problems and engineer systems, or if you're a coder tinkerer, you're probably going to like this game. Like, there's a lot of problems to solve, and most of them you're going to cause yourself. So should you play by this? I think so. But if you're expecting anything beyond a base builder that is just more of a space engineer's engineering without the combat side, stay away, at least for now. I'm sure that those additional things where you're clearing out a space station filled with aliens are on their way. But thanks for showing up, and I don't know, if this was helpful to you, a like and a sub would be great. Share this with someone who might be thinking about picking up the game, and help them make a good decision with their money. Like, that's why I'm doing this. I just want you to, the money that you do make, like, life is short, and if you spend $30 on a game, let's at least hope it's fun. Like, the AAA market is really failing us these days. $80 game that runs like trash and isn't actually done for 3 or 4 years. Like, it's sad where things are going. But thanks for showing up. See you all again real soon.